everyone, this is Keith Scott from Melbourne, Sydney, Australia. I'm one of the voices of Bull Eagle J. Ross. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kelly and Andy McPhee.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting fiasco. And the comments we saw from, people in the sport were quite interesting. At first they were very critical of 2311 and Front Row Motorsports' position. And we saw all the comments of anti-Michael Jordan telling him basically under sports terms to go back where he came from. And then we saw, people being really ticked off, like the NASCAR loyalists when they were vindicated in court. And here are some of the comments from Larry McReynolds and for those who don't know, Larry McReynolds is a very long time NASCAR crew chief and NASCAR broadcaster. And he has been very vocally loyal to the leadership, which, by the way, has changed since then with the firing of Steve Phelps in response to the stuff that got exposed from them taking down SRX and all the text messages about Richard Childress, etc. So yeah, along with the fire that the teams received from the NASCAR loyalists and all that, the people that were devoted to the sport, they also were heavily victimized by comments from Larry McReynolds, one of the longtime NASCAR broadcasters and an ex-crew chief of many wins from Dale Earnhardt to Mike Skinner and a few other drivers over the years. And he said some comments that made me absolutely cringe when I heard them. Like, what he said was he said, 2311 and Front Row Motorsports are trying to disrupt the way NASCAR has done business for 76 and a half years. We've got an organization that's been here not even 4 years that all of a sudden is saying, we got to change the way NASCAR's run. I'm all about change. Change is what makes you better. But you know what? When I see Richard Childress, Jack Roush, Rick Hendrick, and Joe Gibbs that's been here longer than some of these guys have been yellow, and they signed off and said, this is good, we're okay. There's things we don't like about it, but we're going to do what's best for the sport and best for our business. And they signed off on it. And these people that have either been not competitive or only been here for 4.5 years have been saying we've done business for 76.5 years incorrectly. And he said, as far as Michael Jordan, he said that it's a hideous statement in my book about using the word unfair. What do you mean unfair? Could you clarify a little bit of unfair? Things that NASCAR has done over the last decade is about as fair could be to all parties involved, including our fans. Competitive, we've had 18 different winners this year. Come on with the competitive. Front Row Motorsports is only suing because 2311 needed a buddy. They haven't been competitive enough. So yeah, Donovan, when I heard Larry's comments, I was laughing in absolute frustration. My thoughts were, oh, of course. Of course he is going that route. The idea that people should sign a contract with illegal terms because everyone else is doing it? Really, Larry? Really? I'm sure there were tons of people in Nazi Germany that were forced to just go with the flow and some that didn't because they knew the actions were illegal. As a guy who's been in the sport for several decades, Larry McReynolds should absolutely know better than to believe that just because NASCAR has run their sport with their iron fist for 76 plus years should mean that they be exempt from the law. Hello, I hate to burst your tire, Larry, but NASCAR is not immune from addressing the consequences of their illegal methods of operation. We are all to answer to ethics and the law, and NASCAR is not immune from abiding by the laws governing the business world. And 2311 and Front Row put him in that place when they won the lawsuit epically. They have no regrets on the outcome of the lawsuit, unlike what Larry predicted. Larry's prediction was absolutely wrong. Larry's comments were very classless and openly defensive of an illegal position, and it makes people question now whether Larry McReynolds is deserving of the America's Crew Chief title. I'm sure you felt the same way, bro, but Larry's comments made me cringe very horribly. I felt the exact same vibe that I'm sure Tom Cruise felt with the Colonel Jessup monologues, the whole "you better ask me nicely." The whole "you can't handle the truth" scene and the whole "extend me some effing courtesy" vibe. His comments about how the team should not question NASCAR leadership, that NASCAR ran their company fairly, and his dismissive and rude comments towards the two small teams, and acting like Front Row Motorsports isn't a championship team, even though they have made the chase several years now and have been in the sport since 2005. It's like, wow, did America's crew chief just have a Colonel Nathan Jessup moment? You know what I mean? Because that's sure how it felt hearing Larry's snotty remarks on Sirius. I'm glad that Denny Hamlin called him out for his comments because it was just really not needed for what was already a time of scrutiny for the sport. And in the end, the teams were proven right, and Larry McReynolds has egg on his face. When I heard all those comments, I'm sure that you probably may have had similar feelings that I did, but when I heard those comments when the lawsuit played out, I was like, damn, Larry McReynolds, telling a team that's been in the sport since 2005 and has made significant championship improvement in Front Row Motorsports is not competitive enough. And I was like, dude, at Phoenix Raceway in 2013, I called Front Row Motorsports Back Row Motorsports because of their start and park days, and the next week they win at Talladega and proved me wrong. And I was like, when I saw them win, I was happy for them, and I was like, maybe the Back Row Motorsports comment helped them. And when I heard more into what Larry said about how everybody else signed the charter agreement when 2311 and Front Row did, and then hearing about how he thinks that NASCAR shouldn't change because they've run a business for the way they did for 76 and a half years, and that a team that's only been in there for like a few years is now asking them to be more fair. I remember reading that, and I had the exact same cringe feeling that I did a few years ago when I saw the movie A Few Good Men for the first time. And I was in the living room watching Jack Nicholson gloat to Tom Cruise, "You better ask me nicely." And then the whole, if my company wants a code red, they're going to get a code red, or whatever he said in the scene, even though it was an illegal order. And I remember feeling the same way with the whole "you can't handle the truth"
Hmm.
monologue.
Yep.
And I just remember hearing Larry's comments and being like, am I listening to Colonel Jessup talking about the 2311 lawsuit? Because that made me cringe as much as I did watching those scenes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it's crazy when he said that. It's almost like he's critiquing Tom Brady. You don't do that when
Mhm.
this charter has so many successes. I also cringed, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, and I remember having the same thoughts as Denny Hamlin when ultimately Jordan and the teams prevailed in court. I remember thinking, is Larry going to learn a lesson now? But at the same time, this is where I'm going to call out Larry McReynolds on this because Larry is an open Christian, just like me. As a Christian, he should know better than to say because other people are signing the contract, you guys should as well. Hello, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were told by King Nebuchadnezzar during the time of Babylon. They were told along with the whole kingdom and all the servants of King Nebuchadnezzar II. They were all told, when you hear this music play, you guys have to bow down and worship this statue I created. And everybody did so except for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And what happens? King Nebuchadnezzar comes up to them and basically says, did you guys not hear what I just said? I clearly said loud and clear, the way everybody else is doing, that you guys have to bow down when you hear the music and worship my statue. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, oh, we heard you, King Nebuchadnezzar. We're not going to do it because we know it's not right. We know God will save us. And even if he doesn't, we're not going to do it because we know that your order is illegal. And King Nebuchadnezzar was like, okay, you'll find out that your God's not real when you go into the fire over there. And then he throws them in the fire, and look what happens. The three men emerged unscathed, and King Nebuchadnezzar was so shocked that he said, I will never question you again. You know, that's what happened with 2311 in Front Row in that whole case. So as a Christian man, Larry should know better than to think that. And, the thing about me, Donovan, is I'm with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and I'm with 2311 and Denny Hamlin and Bob Jenkins and Michael Jordan. If I'm being told to do something that I know is unethical, I'm not going to do it. I don't care if it's my brother that does it. I don't care if my mother does it. I don't even care if my hero Jamie McMurray does it. If they're ordering me to sign a contract that I know is not legal, I'm not signing this stinking thing.
Right. And you see that, and I'm going to take this on like a bigger, like an open, wider scale. You see this in any other entertainment center, whether it be NFL, the music industry. You got to read those contracts. And there are some that do have that moral compass that says, I'm not signing this, so I agree.
Gee, that's all we have for Relentless and Unstoppable. So tune into the next episode to hear more amazing stories from amazing guests. This is Keith Scott from Sydney, Australia saying so long, and I'm smarter than the average bear. Gee.